The little boy was told, like Seth here, was told, now you see this book? Yes. Now, it is going to be your responsibility in life to know what this book has to say from cover to cover. If you're going to have a relationship with God, you're going to have to know what's in this book. Well, he'd probably get overwhelmed because this book is entirely too big. What does it say? How do I learn about this book? It's so heavy I can't even hardly lift it, much less understand it all. Now I got a big Bible here to exaggerate the point a little bit. How people become so overwhelmed with things that they shouldn't be overwhelmed with. When you went to school, you learned your ABCs. They didn't tell you in first grade that today is coming, you're going to have to know what 10,000 times 10,000 times 10,000 is. They didn't tell you that. It would be overwhelming, but somehow you knew that you're going to have to learn more than you did before. Now, on these formulas, I want you to look at it like this. We're going to take certain scriptures that come out of this book, and we're going to learn how to accomplish what God's got for us. We learn about our potentials, what we can accomplish, and how God will help us accomplish it. Revelation of what we can become, what we can do, how to handle temptations, how to handle struggles, how to handle situations. So what we're doing is learning. We're learning to achieve new ground, new heights, new dimensions, learning more about the sovereignty and the holiness and righteousness of God. So in all, it's not overwhelming if you take formula number 1 and complete it and then go to formula number 2. But if you're like some of the rest of us, we at least like to look ahead to see where we're going to go. So now the next thing is, although the formula tonight will be called formula number 4, does not mean that you have to go 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. You can select any one you want to. In fact, when we get finished, if you want to go to 7 first, it's all right. So it really doesn't make any difference how you do it. What this whole program is for, to help you to reach a level and a height of victory and joy and gladness and hope and all. You see, that's what this is all about. Now, someone may feel a little overwhelmed because the time is swiftly passing by and you're not getting it. It's going kind of slow, and you can't even remember what number 5 is. How many of y'all know what number 5 is? Let me see your hands. Oh my, that ain't too big a deal there. All right, number 5, you see, so you get kind of scared right away, and you say, well, now wait a little. I'm not accomplishing anything. How do you know you're not? We haven't given the grade yet. We're never going to give that. But you're learning. Surely you're learning. In our house, we go over them every day together. We go through all of them together. And I was amazed how at first I'd get 3 and 4 mixed up, and 5 and 6 mixed up, and everything else. But it really doesn't matter if you get 1 and 2 mixed up. The main thing is to get all of it together. Now tonight we start with formula number 4, and you can set this back on the back burner. Tonight, listen to this just like you were listening to a sermon. If it's overwhelming to you, don't try to figure this out in a formula form tonight, but rather listen to it as a message. And so what we're going to do now is turn to Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6. I'm going to wait till you get there, and then we're going to look at that verse Now, let's go to verse 31. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. All right, now, everything that's centered around you and your relationship with man is centered around that verse. How you treat others is the way you want to be treated. So when you take that into consideration, everything else is going to follow as you go along. So we're going to have this message tonight on the golden rules. This is what has been called the golden rule. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. In this rule, the reason we call it a rule, it's a good rule. It's a valuable rule. It's an outstanding rule. When I went to school, it was called a golden rule. And if I'm not mistaken, I have a golden rule here. So it's a golden rule. Now, what it's for, if you remember that everything you do toward your fellow man, if you bear in mind not what they do to you, but what you do to them, that you're going to treat them the way you want them to treat you, you're going to find victory in your Christian life. You're going to have joy in doing it. All right, now, so number one, day one. On day one, whenever you decide to start this, we're going to confess, today, I will love my neighbor as myself. Now your thought, doing to others as you would that they would do unto you, is the way we learn it at school. Today, I will love my neighbor as myself. And tonight you'll get the papers. So if you don't want to write that down, you don't have to. I'm going to give you the papers. The reason we don't give you the papers first, because people read the papers and don't pay attention to what I'm saying, and they don't get the points. So, today, I will love my neighbor as myself. Now, you may have to work on that. So you say, well, I'm having a difficult time loving my neighbor. That's what this program's all about. So we go to the Bible and we find what the Bible says to help me to reach this particular situation. So we have now in Matthew chapter 22, beginning at verse 37 and reading through verse 40. If you want to turn there, I'll wait on you a little bit. Matthew chapter 22 and starting at verse 37. Jesus said unto him, there's a man that came to Jesus, and Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Then he adds this, On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Now, the verse we're centering out here is, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. We get verses and we check out what it says before and past, the context and so forth, to find out what it's saying. But right here now, we have, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So it's a commandment. Now, I'm going to start looking at what I can do to serve my neighbor. What I can do to start learning to love my neighbor by simply saying that the Bible says I'm to love my neighbor as myself. So I can do it because God said do it. He will give me the strength to do it. And furthermore, the Lord is with me today. He's guiding my steps. And if I'm tempted to not do what the Lord says, remember all our formula. We're not going to be tempted above what we're able to bear, you know, and so forth. And no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And Satan get behind me, you know, and all this. So really, you have all the formula number one on your side now as you come into this. And if you went in formula number 2, and if it's formula number 2's on your side, and now you're ready to hit this thing head on, I'm going to love my neighbor as myself. And for reinforcement verses, you can go to John 13:35. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples, if you have love one toward another. So who is my neighbor? So my neighbor may be sitting close to me here in church tonight. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples. So Jesus said this is a characteristic of discipleship. It is a characteristic of the disciples of God to do this. So you say, well, I can't do it. Sure you can. God never asked you to do anything that He won't give you grace to do. Now here's the point. You say, well, I just can't love my neighbor because my neighbor is really, really mean. I mean, he's really mean or she's really mean. You see, God gives us the grace where we cannot live it. Now, you see, Ray and Janet sitting back here in Civil, they're all my neighbors. If they have trouble loving me now after this, they're going to have to go to this verse. Ain't we right? And they're going to have to say, I'm going to love Brother Rhodes. You know, they don't have any trouble loving me, I know that. But how do I know that I love my neighbor as myself? Romans 13:10 tells you pretty clearly what it's all about. It says, love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, the love is the fulfillment of the law. Now, listen to this. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. So now, if I'm going to work this program, am I working ill to my neighbor? How am I treating my neighbor? What am I saying about my neighbor? How do I respond to my neighbor? If my neighbor is not all that kind to me, how do I respond to him? Folks, here's where we learn where we can reach the neighbor. That's where we can get the neighbor. That's where we can change the neighbor. Now, number 2, the second day of this conversion, we more or less hold in the background. We don't forget it completely, but we put our emphasis now, and the priority is on day number 2. Whatever day you start with today, I will be a friend to others. In the world in which we live, many people need friends. It is very needful that somebody becomes a friend. Somebody that does something others are not doing. How about becoming a better friend than others? Not to supersede them, but to accomplish what God has for us. All right, Proverbs 18:24 is pretty familiar to most of you. A man that has friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Now, a lot of people use that to say God is the one that sticketh closer than a brother. I do not think this is what the writer had in mind when he wrote this. He means that your brother, there are certain friends that actually stick closer to you than your brother. Let's say, for an example, Jonathan and David had that relationship. That relationship may not have been as healthy as it should have been, because I think there's a little more love involved there than it should be, because the Bible says he loved even more than he did women. That friendship of being there to stick by the side of a dying friend, to be there when trouble comes, to be there as a word of encouragement. Now, folks, I'm teaching tonight. I'm not preaching, so don't go to sleep on me. There is a friend. Somebody needs you. Somebody needs you. Luke 10:33 tells about a Samaritan that was traveling down the road, and he saw a man in a ditch. Now, he's a Samaritan. There's a Jew in the ditch, as near as we can tell. But he said, I'm going to stop and help him. A lot of people misunderstand Samaritans. I just heard a preacher tell me just recently that Samaritans are a half-breed. They was a half-breed of people living in Samaria. No, they were not. Don't pay attention to that kind of nonsense, folks. They were Israelites. They were Gentiles. They were not Jews. They were Israelites. They were looking for the Messiah to come, just like the Jews were. There was nothing to do with them being any other thing. They had a looking for the Messiah to come. A Jew is from the tribe of Judah and part of the tribe of Benjamin, and other than that, they're all Israelites. Even the Gentiles mentioned in the Bible was Israelites. Now, at least to the most parts. But this Samaritan stopped and helped. He showed friendship to this man. He paid the man's hospital expense, so to speak, because he was a friend. Did he know him? No, he didn't. Have you ever helped somebody that was in trouble and you helped them anyway? That's the beautiful part of it. Now let's go to day 3. Day 3, we will study on today, I will serve my fellow man with love. Now this is service. I'm going to serve my fellow man today. This is what I'm going to do. I'm making a decision that I'm going to serve my fellow man. Galatians 5:13, for brethren, you have not been called into liberty, only use not your liberty of the occasion of the flesh. But here's the verse you want, another part of it. But by love, serve one another. So your whole system of making this program work is love. So if you don't have love, you're not going to be able to make it. But in addition to love, God will give you the grace to work with everything. So we need love and grace. So we have the love and the grace. Now, if we continue to love, by this you all men know that you're my disciples, I'm going to serve you out of love. I'm not going to serve you because I have to, but I'm going to serve you out of love. Jesus, in John 13, beginning of verse 14, spoke about, he said, I'm going to wash the disciples' feet. He desired to become a servant who was master of all. He wanted to become a servant. So he washed the disciples' feet. And he took a towel and wiped their feet. When he got to Peter, Peter said, you're not washing my feet. And Jesus said, if I washed it not, you have no part with me. Then Jesus gave these words. You can use as a reinforcement verse. It says, for I've given you an example that you should do as I've done unto you. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. Or if you remember that, I mean, that changed your life. The servant is not greater than his Lord. We usually say, well, the Lord is greater, but look where he said this. He said the servant is not greater than his Lord. That kind of sounds reversed, doesn't it? What he's saying is, you're pretty much on the same level when you have love and service. Service requires us to be on the same level. Neither is he that sent greater than he that sent him. If you really want to respond to God and serve the Lord, is serve your fellow man. Do good to him. Wash his feet if he needs it. See, this service will establish you. If you get this program in your being, it will become so much a part of you that service seems like the right thing to do. You'll want to serve more than you want to be served. You will have such an exceeding desire to serve. See, a lot of people want to stand behind the pulpit. They want to travel like I do. They want to preach in conferences and that kind of thing. I'll tell you how to get started with that is right at home serving your fellow man. I find it a great pleasure to serve my wife. I really enjoy serving my wife. I really do. I just think it's the most fun serving my wife. The reason is, now some of you are not getting all this tonight. You think, man, this is, you go get it out the while. Just don't worry about it. Kind of hot and sticky in there tonight. Some of you is wondering about this thing. You're serving me sitting there now. You know? If you realize that you're going to find it more fun to serve than to be served. Day 4. Today I will treat others the way I want to be treated. Now there's your golden rule. All right, today I'm going to gossip about you. Is that what you want me to do to you, or do you want me to do I want you to do to me? How about gossiping? How about telling a bad story about you? See, when you get this formula in your mind, you begin to change. You begin to see the value. You see it God's way. The formula becomes a very part of your very existence. Luke 6:31, remember? And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. This is what we use here as the verse. I'm going to treat others the way I want to be treated. All right? You come home tonight, you treat your wife the way you want to be treated. You treat your family the way you want to be treated. You go to sell something, you sell it the way you want to be treated. You go to buy something, you buy it off the other person the way you want to be treated. You say, well, he's a crook, and I got to deal with a crook. There's nothing wrong with negotiating. I don't know that there's anything wrong with negotiating. But treat people with respect. Now I'm getting commanding now. I'm suggesting that you treat everybody with respect. That's beautiful. That makes it beautiful. All right, now, your children see you respect them. You treat them the way that you want them to treat you. In other words, are you saying that I can't give them a spanking because I don't want to get a spanking? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the general run, treat each other with respect. Not rendering evil for evil, or railing for railing, but contrariwise blessing. See, that's what it says in 1 Peter 3:9. What you do, 1 Peter 3:9, not rendering evil for evil or railing for railing. I'll give you back what you gave me. All right, you give me a dirty look, I'll give you a dirty look. No, it's completely different. I'm going to treat you. So today my confession is, today I will treat others the way I want to be treated. When you start that, your relationship with your boss, your relationship with your husband, your relationship with your wife, everything starts changing. It starts changing. At our house, we serve each other. We treat each other that way. Just for a joke tonight, I told Yummy when they came in here, I said, I need a shoe shine. I'm sitting here on a chair, you shine my shoes. So I sat there on the chair and leaned back and she shines my shoes for me. If we do those kind of things just for the fun. But you see, we treat each other. We should treat each other the way we want to be treated. You come here to church, you treat your fellow man the way you want to be treated. How do you want to be treated? Do you really treat them the way you want to be treated? Now let's go to number 5, day 5. Now we are down to day 5. What have we done with the other 4 days? We have kind of kept them on the back burner, and we still remember them, maybe quote them several times, but our major, see folks, if you don't put your whole heart in this thing, it won't work. This is when you made an unchangeable decision. This thing's coming through. If you don't get it the first 11 days, keep on going. Get a determination. Get a determination you're going to get it. If I had to, I'd work on formula number 1 until I was so assured of that thing when I got up in the morning that the Lord is going to be with me, and that He's going to lead my steps, and everything that happens to me today is going to be all right, and I'm telling you, everything's going to be just okay. And what are you going to do when something butts up against you? Oh, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. But the temptations, I'm tempted to hit you in the nose. No, you're not. Do you remember there's no temptation coming to you? But there's a way of escape. You have an escape route on that. The Lord said He's not going to let you be tempted above that you're able to bear. Well, then how am I going to handle the temptation? Say, Satan, I resist you in Jesus' name. Who replaces Satan? Number 7, who replaces angels? Who replaces Satan? The angels come on the scene. You know what happened after Satan got chased off in Jesus' day? Who ministered to him? The angels ministered to him. I'll tell you folks, anytime you get into temptation, you come along and you feel like today, I need to treat everybody like I want to be treated, but I don't feel like it. And you drive that devil off, the ministering angels come minister for you. Now let's go to number 5, day 5. Today, I will do good to all people. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 10. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Now, let's do, as we have an opportunity. Now, opportunities may not automatically come. You may have to seek an opportunity to do good. What are you going to do? Do good to all men. Who in the world is he talking about? Everybody. So now that's called everybody. Everybody. We're going to do it to everybody. You mean to my mean boss, I'm going to do good to him. Yes, that's right. You mean I'm going to do good if somebody treats me terrible? That's right. I'm going to return a good deed for the bad one. Oh, well, I think I'm going to quit today. No, you're not. As you have an opportunity to do good, do it. See, you're going to have an opportunity to do good to all men. You're going to have that opportunity because you can make the opportunity. Tonight I haven't asked a question, but somebody has already done some good deed for me, and I know that the good deed is already done. How do I know? Because it's always done. I can go back at that refrigerator and I can pull open that door and I'll find a drink in there for me. These brethren do the same thing. You know why? Somebody's got some love for us. And they got grace in operation. If I preach a mean message, the drinks have never been moved. Aren't you guys? They may think, hey, he needs it now. Luke 6:33. Incidentally, that's very close to Luke 6:31 where we had the golden rule. And if you do good to them that do good to you, what thanks have ye? For sinners also do even the same. A sinner will do good to those that do good to him. Now that's Luke chapter 6 and verse 33. These are reinforcement verses. This is what you use to help you to establish this thing. But I'm suggesting you stick with the one verse so you don't get overwhelmed. Stick with your one verse. There's people saying they have already got victory. They've done, they're aware of it now. It's beautiful to see this thing in operation. Victory was formula number one. You haven't got this yet. Luke 6:35, which is still following the golden rule, it says, "But love ye your enemies, and do good, and," listen to this, "and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and you shall be called the children of the highest, for he is kind to the unthankful and to the evil." You know, I used to think I was a lending company. People would borrow everything off of me. It got so they quit asking whether they could borrow it. They said, "Oh, go down and borrow it off Daniel Rhodes." I had a neighbor moved into the area. He didn't even know me, never seen me in his life. He wanted to get a lasso to lasso some cattle, and somebody told him, "Daniel Rhodes has got a good lasso up there. Whenever we need it, we go borrow it off of him." This guy comes in on our property, walks in the shop. They told him where it would be. He goes and gets it and takes off with it. I had never seen the man before. And here the guy comes back, and I happened to be outside when he brought the thing back, and he said, "Thanks for the use of your lasso." And I said, "Who are you?" We had tractors got out of the shed when we was in the farming business years ago. People would borrow your tractor, never asked you if you could. And we had a problem for a while learning how to deal with this situation. Now, I don't think he means that I'm going to have to loan you my car all the time and you have to loan yours to me. He said, "But you love your enemy." How am I going to love my enemy? That's a pretty hard thing to ask out of me. Nothing is too hard for love to accomplish. Love always has grace to follow it. If you say this is an absolute impossibility, I don't think that man's got good sense to bring a message like this to us tonight. No, you need to understand the principle of love. Love always has grace with it. You have grace to fulfill the law of love. Law is a love. Love is a law. And when you get that grace operating in you, the way you get the grace operating in, become a servant. To become a servant to your neighbor. To love your neighbor. Not whether he loves you back, but whether you love him. That makes everything work. Now today, every temptation I run into, I just go back and say, I'm going to do good to all people. It's no condition. I'm not going to do good to them if they do good to me. I've made a decision. I'm going to do good to them. Do you remember what Jesus said? When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. This is the way this love works. See, grace always follows love. So if you have a problem with love, you have a problem with grace. And if you got a problem with grace, you got a problem with fear. Love is a fear killer. Those of you which are going to follow the formula of fear, you're going to come back to love again. But suppose I have problems now that this thing is getting tough. I was starting this formula, got along okay till on that 5th day, and then my neighbor blew it. My husband blew it. My wife blew it. My son came home mad. Now what are you going to do? You're going to go right back. Where are we going? Anybody know where we're heading? All right, we're going to go right back here to our rescue verse, the battle verse, and we're going to see what we got to do is pull down the pulling down the strongholds, casting down the imagination. See, if you don't cast down those imaginations, those reasonings, and start imagining somebody don't like me. I just got a feeling somebody don't like me. I mean, the more I do to them, the worse they act. That's normal. The nicer you treat your enemy, the worse you'll get. That's all right. It's working when he feels bad. You head right back. I'm going to cast that thing down. I'm not going to disobey God. I'm going to have retaliation against all sin. And I am in readiness to revenge all disobedience. It's good to keep that verse in mind, because if you don't, you're going to have trouble. Now, day 6. Today, I will bless those who may mistreat me. Oh my, it's getting worse all the time, isn't it? I mean, we're getting crucified tonight, aren't we? That's what it's all about. As a preacher, that you'd probably know him if I mentioned his name. He's been gone for years. And somebody said, that preacher will kill you. The way he preaches, he said, that's what my intentions is, to kill you. He said, I'll kill you. That's what my intentions is. And the fellow said, what? He said, brother, until you die, you'll never make it. But you know, today I'm going to bless those who mistreated me. Folks, you'll never sit around thinking about, oh, somebody hurt me. Oh, somebody hurt me. Forgiveness is coming on the scene because love requires it. Grace is there. But I can't forgive them. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes. Grace gets that old love in you gone. You know what? Here's the verse for today. Jesus said in Luke 6, 27 and 28, it's not what somebody else said to you, what the old people said to you, not what your mama said to you, not what your daddy said to you, but what I say unto you which hear. You which hear. Love your enemies. Do good to them that hate you. Bless them that curse you. And pray for them that despitefully use you. Come on. Now, that's really asking for a lot. I can't do that. I just can't do that. Sorry, but I just can't do that. I'm too human. No, you're not. If you was too human, you could easily do it. Because humans was created to be perfect. I can't do it. I mean, how can I treat somebody? You got to get rid of carnality. You can do it, folks. You start this and say, today, I will bless those that have mistreated me. Listen. Every one of these I've got a today on. You go start today. I can do it because the love of God's operating in my life. The grace of God comes on the scene. You and I can do good to those that despitefully use you. I tell you, the meanest human being I've ever met had a crash with me one time. And he had a crash with about everybody. I didn't think he'd ever get to me, but he did. He was determined to ruin me. He was determined to wreck me. He was determined to destroy me. And I was determined he wasn't going to. But he got so mean that he about to. And I'll tell you what. The grace of God got into my heart and the love of God came on the scene. I had one of those guys one time, soon after that, about the same time, that was way back years ago, I got in the hospital. And he's the meanest orderly you had ever met. Came in there and he said, He walked into my bedside and he said, One of those Christian. Must I be carried to the sky on flowery beds of Eve, while others fought to win the prize and sail through bloody seas? Are you swimming through blood, brother? Oh, it must be fun swimming through blood. And he'd leave, and he'd come back after a while and he'd say something mean to me, you know. He'd say, why don't you talk? Why don't you say something, old butt? I wouldn't say nothing. And he did that for day on day. And I mean, I was getting about enough of it. You ever hear anybody say they've had about all they can take? I was about on that line. He came in there and he said, hey, must I be carried through the sky on flowery beds of Eve, while others fought to win the prize and sailed through bloody seas? And he looked at me and he said, what are you going to say? I said, nothing. He said, how come you don't talk to me? I said, because the Bible tells me not to. He said, say, what did you say? The Bible told you not to talk to me? That's right. Ha ha! The Bible told you not to talk to me. I said, that's right. Where is that Bible verse? I said, I don't think you want to know. He said, let me hear it. I said, are you ready? He said, yeah. I said, are you man enough to handle this? He said, I'm ready to handle anything. I said, all right, here it goes. Cast not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and come again and rend you. That guy looked at me. You calling me a dog? You calling me a hog? I said, no, sir, I didn't call you a dog. He said, well, you just got done saying it. I said, no. I said, God said you're a dog and a hog. That guy walked out the door. I hadn't seen him for 2 days. We're getting ready to go home. They come and dismiss me. And you know, they always have them wheelchair rides, you know. They act like you can't walk out of the hospital. They have to push you out. So they got me on that two-wheeler, four-wheeler, whatever you call them things, and start spinning you down the road. Here come this guy and said, hey, where are you taking him? He's going home. I want to take him out and put him in the car. I said, oh, Lord, help me. We're going down the elevator. I'm upstairs. We start down that elevator, and he said, hey, how come you never got mad at me? He said, you know, every Christian that comes into this place, I test them to the limit. He said, you're the only one that never got mad at me. And he said, I know you said some pretty harsh things there on that Bible verse, but you never got mad at me. And he said, I want to tell you that I have a lot of respect for you, man. Now, I didn't know it was going to turn out like this. I didn't tell him that he don't know how close I came. You know, that man, I was able to really give that man a witness before I left. Before I went away in the car. See, I didn't know what this was leading up to. Think about that sometime. It's your opportunity. See, you don't render evil for evil. He mistreated me. Bless those that curse you. Bless those that curse you. Esther and I have learned to do that. Say, Lord, bless those people. I tell you, I have seen that work. I've seen it work. I seen a man that was so much against me as a Christian that he did everything he could do, and I thought the day would come that he would never have anything to do with me. And he was in the neighborhood where I live, and he was mean, extremely mean. And I went up to a filling station there nearby one evening, and he was there. And he always treated me like a dog. And the man that owned the service station said to me, Dan, how much rain did you get back there? I said, about an inch. He said, we just got a sprinkle here. That mean guy said, I never seen anything like it. He said, that man's a Christian, and if it's ever going to rain, it'll rain on his farm. He said, I live right beside him. It won't rain on mine. Rain on his. You know, soon after that we moved. And this man said, once I get a good neighbor, he moves. I never changed a lick. That returning good for evil works. Esther and I started practicing that years ago. Romans 12:19, dearly beloved, avenge not yourself, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head. You know, he said, vengeance is mine. Oh, the Lord will get him. I'll tell you right now, boy, the Lord will get him. I mean, tell you wait. No, that's not what that means. Do you know what it means, coals of fire upon his head? A lot of people think it would be you grab up a big old coal and make a thing red hot and put it on his head and skin his head off. That isn't what it means. Years ago, back in them days, according to history, they would carry a bucket of sand and they'd carry it on their head like they do overseas. And if you ran out of heat, they didn't have matches. You couldn't go to 7-Eleven and get a match. So they didn't have matches. So they would go to a neighbor that had good hot coals and ask for a hot coal. So you warmed the house with that thing. That man transmitted the warmth from his house to your house. That's what they claim that means. It makes good sense to me because it surely don't mean let's get some good old hot coal here and hold him down, I'll pour it on your head. That don't sound like doing good to anything, does it? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Now, day 7. Now remember, it's only one verse that we're using. You'll notice on your paper, I'm not using all three. These are just reinforcement verses. Day 7, today I will esteem others better than myself. Today I will esteem others better than myself. And for a Bible verse, Philippians 2:3, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem other better than themselves. Now, you know, this is fun. When you begin to put to practice what God says, life is fun. Actually, relation is fun when you start doing that. We have found the favor of Lord gets on us when we treat people with respect. It just comes on you. That's the way it is. The favor of God follows it because you see every time, but how can I esteem that fellow above me? Oh, we got love and grace. Grace makes love work. Love makes grace come into operation. They work together. And incidentally, grace and love makes faith work. So you see, you can do anything if you got the doer. The doer is you. esteem other better than himself. You mean, now you got to be kidding. You mean I'm going to have to treat that person above myself? That's right. You know, folks, tonight I am keenly aware that the man in the ditch tonight that has done nothing but curse God, got himself drunk laying in the ditch. He may call himself an atheist. I tell you, that's my fellow human being. I consider myself, when I see him in that ditch, I feel myself as being in there with him. Rescue the perishing. When I see a person like this, my heart swells with compassion. That's the reason I'm on worldwide radio all over the world. I get compassionate. The grace of God rise up in me. You feel sometimes like at first impulse you want to tell them off. But no, the first thing you know, that grace rises up and it triggers that love. Yes, I remember. To esteem others better than myself. Listen, folks, you cannot prove to me that I don't esteem you higher than me. I consider myself a servant to you people. There's nobody in here can accuse me of saying that you're no good. I've never said that. And I don't even think that. You can be ever so low. You can be ever so no good. You can be ever so no count. And I'll try to preach to you and I'll try to reach you some way. But you can't say that about me. God is my witness on that. I honestly tonight feel no different. I do not feel 1 inch higher than you, not even 1,000th of an inch higher than you. I don't. I feel like I need to serve you people. I feel like you are the ones that I need to serve. That's the reason why occasionally I'll tell somebody, hey, let me take you out to eat today. On Sunday or something. I try to get around. I ask some people, and they, never suits them, but others do, and we try to do that whenever we can afford it. It's something about serving one another. Yeah, I just really love it. I mean, tell you folks, the only thing I wish that y'all respond sometimes to it and really, make the changes necessary. I still love you, though. You can't take my love away from you people, because that love and grace work together. After I come across with a rather heavy message, I go home and I roll all over that bed. And I say, oh, God, I don't want to hurt them people. The Lord said, will you quit that? You're getting too much pity. You need to speak the truth in love, but do it. Sometimes it feels hard. I told a pastor today that I wish that everybody could be a prophet for one day. That's all you'd have to be. I'm not talking about those kind of prophets that call themselves prophets and don't have any message. I'm talking about a prophet that gets near the heart of God and God begins to reveal things to him. You be one for one day. Now it's a reinforcement verse, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5:2. 1 Thessalonians 5, that's not 2, it's 13. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them that labor among you and are over you in the Lord, and to admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake, and be at peace among yourselves. Esteem those leaders that's above you. Esteem them very highly in love for their work's sake. If a man's a good leader, he cares for the flock. David risked his life for a measly sheep. a little lamb or something, goes down and got an old bear. And I like that idea. He goes up there and he recognized that bear don't have a covenant with God, and he does. He grabbed that bear and killed him because of that faith. He saw a lion, and lions are not very good things to tackle. He grabbed that lion and said, give that sheep back. That's my dad's sheep. You're not having that thing. Grabbed that old lion up and killed him. Barehanded. He didn't have an 8mm gun. He didn't have a 30-06. He had love for God and grace. I'll tell you what, folks. He went down there to do a job. He said, that's the kind of heart God's looking for. Romans 12:10, be kindly affectionate one to another in brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. In honor, preferring one another. Now, after you take these 7 steps now, you've gone 7 days now with all these confessions. Now what you do is you take all 7 of them, and for the next 28 days, you take all 7 of them with you. Write them down, put them in your pocket, take the sheet with you. I suggest you put the sheet up on a wall or something. It's a worksheet. You'll have a worksheet tonight. Whenever you're ready to do it, don't go ahead of your schedule. You don't have to feel overwhelmed. Just take it along. You may need it someday. There are people telling me, I think Maxine was one of them that told me, people said, you know, the formulas we already had, when I'd run into a problem, they went to the formula that they hadn't even started working on yet, but they used the thing to overcome something. And once you get these things in your being, see, this is not just reading it. You hear this message tonight, but you won't hear this message tonight. You'll hear it for 28 days, the full thing. Now, somebody may misunderstand the full thing. I mean F-U-L-L. I have to watch what I say. These tapes go all over the place. And I mean, people wonder what I mean by certain things. And my twang is different, and they say I sound like a southerner, and they can't quite catch what I mean. And so I have to be careful what I'm saying here. After you do this for 28 days, you ought to have a problem loving your neighbor as yourself. Now, our Bible verse to start this thing off is, and as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. And I'll tell you, that'll make you a happy Christian. That will make you a happy Christian. I know. Thank God.